Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think the Honorable Member is misleading the House, because what the Honorable Tonge has sought is a statement, and you've already ruled, no, it's not a petition, and you've already ruled that in a week's time, the chair of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture should be able to table a report. Now, what Honorable Jared Okello is putting a spanner into the whole issue, Honorable Speaker, and I think that will even lengthen the period for which we can be able to address this very urgent matter that has been confessed by the 3 honorable members who are from Narok. And I think, Honorable Speaker, your ruling should stand. Thank you.
Yes, Sabina.
And he's not a farmer, Honorable Speaker.
Who?
Honorable Jared Okello. He's a fisherman. He's not a farmer. So.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to add my voice on the same as a member of Agriculture Committee, and also to inform Honorable Pukose that even fishermen are also farming. It's a type of farming. So that is fish farming. And so you cannot rule him out being a farmer. Mr. Speaker, looking at the timelines that you have given and the notice that is supposed to be given for the summons, it is important, maybe, Mr. Speaker, to add us those 2 more days for 2 weeks. But at the same time, Mr. Speaker, I just want to add my voice on importation of products and produces that our farmers are already producing. Apart from what has been raised by honorable members from Narok on wheat, Mr. Speaker, we also have a huge outcry on rice and the farmers from where. So, Mr. Speaker, this is something as a committee we need to look at it wholesomely, so that what our farmers can produce.
There is a statement on that already coming.
Perfect. So that we can be able to protect our farmers before we import. We make sure we have exhausted what our farmers are already producing, so that we empower them and not to look for importation where people are looking for quick money. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, a member for Elgeyo Marakwet County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to add my voice by saying, at times the issue to do with farming needs to be handled within a very short time. Remember, farmers, Mr. Speaker, at times depend on the harvest to prepare for the next season. And it is pointless, especially after the government of President William Ruto provided subsidized fertilizer, for farmers to be able to have a bump harvest and then lack market because of importations. It is pointless to subsidize production, and yet there will be no market. So my request is, if the time can be reduced, because I know these farmers have had the produce since August, Mr. Speaker. There is an expense of storage. There is also a danger of destruction by weevils and other insects. So it is good and it is prudent to handle the farmer with urgency and to handle the farmer with importance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Direction stands. The committee bring a response on Wednesday next week afternoon. And for the unconvincing reasons advanced by Jared Okello, you don't need to go to all those agencies to bring a response on wheat. Get together. You have today to Wednesday, 2:30, bring a response. Thank you. Member for Turkana Central, Joseph Namwar. Before Namwar, hold on, take your seat. Before you seek your statement, order. This enclave is now notorious for illegal kamkunjis in the house. Yesterday, I called you to order. There was an illegal kamkunji. This afternoon, there's another illegal kamkunji. Yes. And you are, apart from 3 of you are newcomers. There's a lounge out there where you can go and consult. I also allow you to sit in the speaker's enclave behind here and talk whatever you want to talk. Honorable members, allow me to acknowledge the following before we go on with the statements. In the speaker's gallery, there is Bomachoge Borabu constituency staff from Bomachoge Borabu in Kisii. Munakaribishwa bungeni. In the public gallery, there is Kathoka Comprehensive School from Mwingi Central, Kitui, and Kisii University from Nyaribari Chache in Kisii. On my behalf and on behalf of the House, we welcome all of you to the House of Parliament. Namwar.
Request for statement regarding submerged primary schools in Turkana Central constituency due to rising water levels. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education regarding primary schools in Turkana Central constituency which have been submerged due to rising water levels in Lake Turkana. Honorable Speaker, in recent years, the effects of climate change have become more evident with countries experiencing extreme weather patterns. One such consequence has been the rising waters of Lake Turkana, which have displaced settlements and submerged several primary schools. As a result, thousands of learners have been left without access to education. The affected schools, with a total enrollment of 1,442 learners, are Natole, 406, Katula, 202, Merier, 210, Nangolpus, 314, and Ekwar, 310. Unfortunately, many of the pupils have been forced to either transfer to other schools or drop out to engage in work, disrupting their education. To mitigate these effects, the National Government Constituencies Development Fund, NGCDF, has constructed 5 classrooms for Ngimuria Primary School, another institution affected by submersion. However, this intervention remains inadequate, as the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, recommended 3-kilometer school accessibility requirement is still unmet. This significantly limits access to education as envisaged in Article 43(1) of the Constitution and threatens literacy levels in the region. Honorable Speaker, it's against this background that I request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education on the following. 1. Immediate interventions in place to ensure the continuity of education for displaced learners at Natole Comprehensive Primary School and other affected schools. 2. A report on the assessment conducted by the Ministry of Education to determine the extent of damage and the feasibility of rebuilding affected schools in several locations. 3. Plans to establish temporary learning centers or mobile classrooms to ensure uninterrupted education for displaced learners. 4. Measures by the ministry to provide the necessary infrastructure, equipment, and school feeding program for the affected primary schools, given that livelihoods in the region have also been severely impacted. And 5, last, long-term strategies in place to enhance climate resilience in school infrastructure within Turkana County and other vulnerable regions. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chair Education, Honorable Meli Tongei, 2 weeks.
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, allow me to acknowledge teachers from Chepgoror Secondary School in Ainabkoi constituency was in Gishu. On my behalf and on your behalf, we welcome them to the House of Parliament. Peter Masara, member for Suna West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education regarding capitation to schools, textbook ratio to pupils, and the state of early childhood development and education ECD programs. Honorable Speaker, The country has made remarkable strides in expanding access to education through initiatives such as free primary and secondary education, significantly boosting the enrollment rates and reducing the educational disparities. However, while access to education is essential, the quality of education must also be prioritized so as to equip learners with the skills and knowledge needed to succeed in the competitive and dynamic environment. Unfortunately, the current government capitation grants for primary and secondary schools are insufficient to address rising operational costs driven by the inflation and the high cost of living. This financial strains leaves schools struggling to provide essential resources, ultimately compromising the quality of education. In addition, there is need to ensure that the framework for textbook distribution in public school under the free basic education system is designed to boost the quality education provided. Honorable Speaker, pre-primary education is crucial for early character development and cognizant
Finance is treasury that releases the money to the...
Where is the chair finance? Benja. I direct you bring a response next Thursday. Next week.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, and I want to thank the member for asking that very important question. But I also thought maybe you should go to chair education unless the member has information that the money has not been released from Treasury to Ministry of Education.
I honestly think you should have directed your question to education. Otherwise, you'll enjoy a ping pong from one.
Give me some mic. Honorable Speaker, I plead with you that you direct that question to the chair
order
education.
That the question, Naomi, be directed to education. Who is here from education? Where is Tonkei? Tonkei has left. Masara, you are in education? Pardon?
Mr. Speaker, give me 1 minute to say something on the same statement by Honorable Molemba.
Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I'm really imploring on you. The suffering on teachers on issues on insurance and their health care should not be taken lightly, Mr. Speaker. These are the people who are really on the ground serving our students and children. If their insurance cover is not, their money is not being remitted in time, it brings suffering to many, because teachers are guardian to so many other people. When they are in trouble in terms of health, Mr. Speaker, it is the society. So despite the fact that Mr. Molemba represents the union, we as the representative of the people, we need to add our voice on this so that teachers' welfare should be taken care of, and also all Kenyan in terms of insurance, Mr. Speaker, the health insurance, Mr. Speaker. That's what I wanted to add on it, and implore upon you for those particular committee chairmen to bring a concrete information which can give hope to these teachers, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Can you inform the chair education to bring a response on Thursday next week?
I will do so due to the seriousness of this matter.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, Senate Bill number 14 of 2023. Second reading, question to be put.
Yes, on this order, then let's put the question first. I'll give you. Order, members on your feet, take your seats. Order, take your seats. Kwame, take your seats. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 8, which is that the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, Senate Bill number 14 of 2023, be now read a second time. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the administrative structures for the management of the Equalization Fund, to establish an advisory board, and for connected purposes.
Next.
Order number 9, the Insurance Professionals Bill, National Assembly Bill number 13 of 2024, second reading. Question to be put.
Order, honorable member, on your feet. Take your seat. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 9, which is the Insurance Professionals Bill, National Assembly Bill number 13 of 2024, be now read a second time. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to make provision for the establishment of the Insurance Institute of Kenya and the Insurance Professionals Examinations Board, to provide for examination, registration, and regulation of standards and practice of insurance professionals, and make provision for matters concerned therewith and incidental thereto.
Next.
Order number 10, the Institute of Social Work Professionals Bill, National Assembly Bill number 17 of 2023, second reading. Question to be put.
Thank you. Order, member for Vihiga, take your seat. Honorable members, I'll now put the question at order number 10, which is that the Institute of Social Work Professionals Bill, National Assembly Bill number 17 of 2023, be now read a second time. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the establishment of the Institute of Social Work and the Social Work Professionals Board, to provide for the examination, registration, and regulation of the standards and practice of social work professionals, and for connected purposes.
Yes, Wamboka. Member for Bumula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise on a point of order 83, as read together with the 217 and 232 on a matter that I will be seeking a clarification, Honorable Speaker. You did rule and directed the liaison committee to deal with the budget issues a couple of days ago, Honorable Speaker. But aware, Honorable Speaker, that the life of 18 committees lapsed. And unfortunately, Honorable Speaker, all the members, the chairman from the minority side, their committees lapsed. So as it stands, Honorable Speaker, the liaison has only composition of chairman from the side of the majority, and therefore bringing its constitution to question, Honorable Speaker. Is it properly constituted as defined and put it to meaning the spirit of Standing Order number 217? I will need your clarification on that, Honorable Speaker. And now that, can it handle the budget on behalf of the budget committee? Honorable Speaker, we are aware that chairmen present their budget, defend their budget to a budget committee. And now that we don't have minority side, chairmen from minority side, are these chairmen looking at their own budgets? And finally, Mr. Speaker, and to we disenfranchising the minority side that forms part and parcel of this House? I'll be seeking your ruling on that, Honorable Speaker. On the second issue, Honorable Speaker, this House last budget passed an amount of 68.23 billion, made up of an annual allocation of 54.77 billion and the carryovers from financial year 2023-2024 of Kenya shillings 13.45 billion. The Ministry of Treasury and Planning, and this, Honorable Speaker, I just want to bring to the attention of the House for noting, while defending the budget policy statement to the Committee of Finance, they have proposed for 25 for the year for BPS for the year 25-26. They have scaled down CDF from 68 billion to 26 billion. Yeah, I wanted the House to take note of that. And Honorable Speaker, the law talks of 2.5%. And looking at what the ministry has given as their estimate on the national government share of 2.562 trillion, therefore CDF's share ought to be 64 billion. Honorable Speaker, I've just brought to the attention of this House because if that passes without our realization, then there is no other way we will reverse that, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, and I beg for your guidance.
Thank you, Honorable Amboka. On the issue, yes, Majority Leader? Majority Hold, Milemba wants to say something first.
A great Honorable Speaker, and thank the Honorable Member for raising the matter that he has raised, because in the House Business Committee the same matter came up, and I want to indicate, Honorable Speaker, that there are certain timelines that have been given for certain happenings, and one of them, as per the new constitution, is the budget making process. And therefore, possibly the constructors of the constitution wanted this to happen so that we don't have a situation whereby a lapse or a happening within the parliament itself can block processes that are very important, including budgeting, to happen. Number two, Honorable Speaker, I believe, but of course your direction will be important, that the House, when it sits and when these committees are constituted, they sit as a House and they don't sit as minority or majority. And this should actually make us be comfortable when we have such a process going on. But also very important is to remember that by the time we closed, or by the time the committees lapsed, we had also issues with the budget committee. In fact, that's what makes me stand. The distribution that had been done by the budget committee in terms of resources, you remember, we had questioned it. And therefore, for me, allowing another unit or a different setup to do that reallocation will be very, very important. And I want to convince the Honourable Member speaking on this, that you yourself, you are a victim just like myself on the distribution that was done by the previous budget committee. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I heard what the Honourable Jack Wamboka has raised, and I agree to an extent with the response by Honorable Omboko. Because one, Honorable Speaker, for Honorable Omboka's benefit, it's not the first time that the Speaker is directing that the budget process, whether it's BPS or even the budget itself, be done by the liaison committee. Indeed, those of us who are here in the 11th Parliament, you remember, mid-term, just like now, the entire Budget and Appropriations Committee was disbanded by the House through a motion that was tabled by the late Honorable Jacoyo Midiwo that dismissed the entire Budget and Appropriations Committee of the House. And for the rest of that term, for the next 3 years, the budget process, making process was done by the liaison committee under the able chairmanship of the then Deputy Speaker, Honorable Cheboy. We still have a liaison committee, Honorable Speaker, and I hear the Jack's concerns that the minority might not be represented.
But when committees sit, as the Honorable Mboko has said, they do not sit as committees of the majority or minority, they sit as committees of the House. But more importantly is that whatever outcome of a committee's report or the outcome of a committee's work must and will end up in this plenary, where we are all represented and we are representing the people on whose behalf we are engaging in that budget-making process on. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I do not find in my thinking anything wrong with the liaison committee as currently constituted, considering both the BPS and even if you were to move on to do the budget, the supplementary budget too, the liaison committee is well placed to consider those. And again, Honorable Mboka is asking, is it that the chairs of these committees, the departmental committees, will be considering their own budgets? It's true. They actually present their own budgets before the Budget and Appropriations Committee. And what the Budget and Appropriations Committee does is to weigh what has come from each of the departmental committees. And the chairs of the departmental committees, I remember when I was chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, some chairs opted to request to sit in the Budget and Appropriations Committee as we considered what was also coming from other committees, so that they're able to understand from the ceilings they have what is being taken away from the departments and going where. And nothing stops any chair of a committee or indeed any member who has interest in the BPS process from seeking the chair's permission, the deputy speaker or whoever will be chairing the liaison committee, to appear before that committee should you have an interest that you want to engage in that process. But hopefully, Honorable Speaker, as we indicated in the House Business Committee yesterday, and I believe the leader of minority is not here, but the minority whip is here, we are completing the reconstitution of all these committees. And I am sure that's why, Honorable Speaker, you did not see myself, Honorable Millie, Honorable Junet here this morning, and part of the yesterday evening. We will be completing this work, and our whip will be completing this work. The selections committee is due to sit tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. Once we complete that and the reconstituted committees list is approved by the House Business Committee, we should be able to reconstitute these committees, and hopefully they would even catch up before we finalize with both the debt management strategy paper, BPS, and the supplementary appropriations bill. But just to reassure Jack Wamboka, there is absolutely nothing to worry. Whatever outcome will come back to you here in plenary to approve. And Honorable Speaker, I believe Jack looks very well satisfied now.
So, first of all, Honorable Wamboka, in future when you have a matter of that nature, as a matter of courtesy, approach the chair and tell the chair that you have such a matter to raise, or even go to the Speaker's chamber so that we can be able to deal with it. Be that as it may, what Honorable Mboko Milemba and the Majority Leader have said partly deals with the matter, and is not without precedent. On February 16th, 2016, Honorable John Mbadi Ngongo raised exactly the same point of order when there was a similar situation. And the Speaker ruled that because of very strict timelines in the budget process, and because we have the liaison committee that can step in and handle the matters, the House should not allow a vacuum to prevail. And the Speaker directed that the liaison committee, as it is now, should handle the issues of budget. Number two, this matter came up in the House Business Committee yesterday. So if you had properly consulted with the Minority Leader, Honorable Junet, the House Business Committee unanimously agreed that in the interest of meeting constitutional timelines, and that looking at the totality of the issues at hand, no prejudice will be occasioned, the liaison committee will deal with this issue until the committees are constituted. And I directed that both sides of the House, the leadership, must be ready with the constitution of the reconstituted committees by end of the day tomorrow, so that we can be able to open next week with committees in place. Those that have been reconstituted differently, elect their chairs and get on with the work. On the issue of the percentages on CDF, we have a CDF committee in this house led by Musa Sirma, but I think it's one of those that have lapsed. I'll direct that as soon as the committee is reconstituted, your matter be placed before them so that they can deal with the matter together with the committee for finance, not finance, for budget, so that where there are percentages locked in the constitution, they must be respected. And we'll ensure that that is done, because I'm a firm believer in CDF and what CDF does in the country, and any shilling less on CDF affects wananchi directly. It is so directed. Thank you. Yes, Wamboka, you have something else?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm well guided on the issue of liaison, and similarly on the issue of CDF. It's just a worrying trend that even Kera money, Honorable Speaker, you may not be aware, and we will be bringing a substantive motion to deal with that. Even Kera money has been cut, revised downwards.
I thought Kera is subject of a court dispute between a group, I understand, surrogate litigants engineered by COG, competing against the interests of your constituencies in management of some Kera funds. It is matter that we are dealing with.
Let's, Honorable Speaker, we will need your direction, because we need to be very firm. If they are surrogating, COG surrogating.
A bit, you know, we came from a very long recess. Last year, we published the County Additional Allocations Bill of 2024-2025, which went to the Senate, and they put this RMLF money, Road Maintenance Levy Fund money, in that bill. We were to go into mediation, and unfortunately that mediation process lapsed at the end of the last session. Those who were here last week, we just republished, and I think we've already read for the first time, that bill republished without the RMLF money in the bill. And we will process it without RMLF, because that is the right thing to do. And probably is a good time to speak to our colleagues in the other house that many counties, I had an engagement with two governors, and let me not mention their names here, Honorable Speaker, but they were telling me in one of them in their county, they have money for KISIP, KUSIP, going to about 1.1 billion shillings that they cannot access because some other governors want to fight over RMLF. And they were telling me in their county, RMLF, they would only get 113 million. And the governor was asking me, what sense is there to fight over 113 million and lose for my county money going especially to the most critical elements like healthcare, provision of water, and even roads, urban roads in towns that are helping that county generate additional revenue to the tune of 1.1 billion shillings. Honorable Speaker, there are few governors, very few of them, who are hinging on this thing of RMLF. Honorable Speaker, you remember even when we were debating this bill last year, we reminded them that back in 2021, when we had the same stalemate, the national government in one instance added a whopping 53 billion shillings to the division of revenue bill for them to be able to cater for roads in counties, Honorable Speaker. Ask Kenyans anywhere in this country where they see governors doing roads. And I'm not asking members of parliament, I'm asking Kenyans. Kenyans can tell us which governors are doing any roads anywhere. If anything, Honorable Speaker, what happens is that the roads that are being maintained by KERA, governors then duplicate the same roads so that they loot from public coffers, Honorable Speaker. And we must call out this corruption for what it is, because it is nothing other than blatant corruption in the counties, Honorable Speaker. And they are not fighting for this money because they intend to maintain any road. In my constituency, Honorable Speaker, I have not a single road that I can show that the county government of Kiambu that has maintained in the last 3 years. None. And if you speak to constituents around the country, they will tell you the same. Honorable Speaker, read the Controller of Budget reports. How many counties are devoting money to development? Many are busy devoting money to freebies, things that are politically expedient and that are exciting to the masses, but not those sustainable things that members of parliament ensure through proper oversight of RMLF that KERA and KURA are actually maintaining roads in our counties and constituencies, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we have pleaded with the executive through the office of the Deputy President, who is the chairperson of IBEC, to call to order through IBEC the Council of Governors. First, to withdraw that case in court, because there is absolutely no reason why 10 billion shillings would be lying idle at a time when we are about to get into the short rains, and Kenyans will be crying about roads that they cannot access their farms and get their farm produce to markets because governors are holding money through a court process, Honorable Speaker. We are pleading, and we have asked the Deputy President through IBEC to speak to the Council of Governors to first withdraw that case. But also, as a House, we will process the additional county allocations bill without RMLF. And let me tell them, it will never pass through the floor of this House. Let me not talk about courts. This House, this floor, RMLF is a live wire that you will never touch. And we will consult with the leadership in the Senate so that no senator even imagines that they can amend that bill when it goes to them to reintroduce RMLF. Because it will end up in another stalemate, a mediation process that we can tell them even before it starts, it will go nowhere. Leave RMLF money, let KERA and KURA maintain the roads they maintain. Last year, Honorable Speaker, speaking to the executive and the minister in charge of roads and infrastructure, and probably together with the Council of Governors, it is high time now that we properly reclassified all our roads. Proper reclassification. I have seen in some countries, Honorable Speaker, if you go to South Africa, you will see a road marked with numerals and alphanumeric coding that clearly tells members of the public that this is a county road, this is a municipal road, this is a national government road. We must get to that level where the Ministry of Roads and Infrastructure does proper classification of roads such that if we have national government roads class A, let us know this is NGA, National Government Class A. If we have a county government road, let it be CG, Class D or Class A or Class B, so that even Kenyans, and name those roads, so that also these members of parliament are not bashed by their constituents, because we are the ones constituents are close to. They keep bashing members of parliament over roads that do not concern members of parliament, because they have no budget for them. And the governors who have money for maintaining these roads are busy buying chicks, some buy maize flour, some buy dengu to give as freebies to constituents to excite people for political expediency. It is high time we also called out, and Kenyans must begin reading those controller of budget reports to see that counties are not devoting money to development. And that is why now we can't satisfy the insatiable greed for more money to steal. We can't satisfy their greed, honestly. We must maintain our position to offer meaningful oversight over Kera, Kura, and Kenha to deliver on maintenance and construction of roads. Because you know, again, they assume that this money is managed by members of parliament. None of these 290 members of parliament representing constituencies, or even the 47 women reps, or even the nominated 12 members, manage this money. This money is managed through the regional offices of Kera under the Director General of Kera and Kura. Members of parliament come nowhere near it. Members of parliament don't even sit in the procurement committees. Our only interest is proper and meaningful oversight for delivery of services to the Kenyan people. The others are only bothered about what they will steal. They want to steal from hospitals. They have looted hospitals. They have looted the water projects. They now are after roads. Honestly, who will satisfy the insatiable greed, Mr. Speaker? We cannot, and we will not satisfy by processing that additional county allocations bill with RMLF included. I hope my leader of majority in the Senate has heard me. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to add a few things to what the majority leader said. Mr. Speaker, this issue of RMLF has been on this floor now for some time, even since last parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I have come to realize, there is a systematic program going on in this country to disconnect members of this house from the public completely. Mr. Speaker, I don't know where that plan is hatched, Mr. Speaker, whether it is in the executive or in the judiciary or somewhere. Mr. Speaker, there is a serious plan to disconnect members of parliament, especially members of the National Assembly, from the public, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, people tell you that it is not your work to bring development to the people. If I cannot bring development to my people, what is the plan? What is the constitutional requirement of representation? You represent people so that you can speak on their behalf on the floor of their house to get resources to the public, Mr. Speaker, if I understand it well. Mr. Speaker, this is something that this house will not accept. Mr. Speaker, look at what's happening in the counties. We are not against devolution. We completely support devolution, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, we have to analyze since the last 10 or 12 years whether devolution has worked for this country. The only things we see in devolution is conferences every year that shows us beans, ndengu, carrots, cucumber, cassavas grown in our areas, Mr. Speaker. Those things have been happening since independence. My grandmother has been growing cassava since Kenya became independent, Mr. Speaker. That's what you are being shown in devolution conferences. There is nothing serious that has happened in terms of devolution since devolution came into place, Mr. Speaker. Truth must be said. We must be truthful to the people, Mr. Speaker. Sure. Look at the amount of money that has been devolved in this country. Trillions of shillings since devolution came into place. Nothing to show for it. Nothing, completely nothing, Mr. Speaker. Let's be honest to Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, we don't want to describe them as devolved corruption. But people are preoccupied. Mr. Speaker, can we have order here? People are preoccupied with the little money that has been devolved through NGCDF, little money that has been devolved to the constituencies through RMLF, and people don't take note of the billions of shillings that are being devolved every financial year, Mr. Speaker. Counties are getting their money. They are not in arrears. Even if the arrears is 1 month, 2 months, in the end the money goes down to the ground. There are counties that are holding billions of shillings in their central bank accounts. I was reading in the newspaper the other day that there are counties that have not spent 48 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. They are lying idle in their account. And they are still demanding for more money. They're saying, oh, the national government has not devolved. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, these people who are calling themselves here Nairobi, Kera and Kura, these people must know that these are organs of national government. They are not part of county government. They are oversighted by this house. This Director General of Kera, Mr. Speaker, this man is a joker. I can tell you for true. He thinks that he is supposed to report to counties. Which governor oversight him? Which county government oversight him? That man must be dragged here to this house under full committee of the full house, Mr. Speaker. And he must be told in no certain terms that he is supposed to report and to the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. This is a man who thinks that he is supposed to work with county government. Which county government is giving him money? Mr. Speaker, you can go around to every constituency today, and we will take you around as a speaker. The roads that are maintained by constituency development, by this RMF through the constituency, are known. In every constituency, they are not even more than 4 or 5. Majority of the roads are classified as county roads, and they are in pathetic condition, all of them. And they are asking for the RLMF for the constituency. The ones for the constituency are well maintained. Actually, the national government is trying its best to even tarmac majority of the county roads. Mr. Speaker, we cannot take this thing anymore lying down. We will put our foot down. We are tired of these shenanigans of counties and judiciary all the time saying CDF is unconstitutional, and these people are enjoying their monies. They are not delivering any services to the public, and the people who are supposed to do that work are being curtailed, Mr. Speaker. This matter must come to an end, and we are going to pass, as the majority leader said, the county revenue allocation, the extra money we are giving them through the bill that has been brought here, without RLMF. If they don't want money, the bill will get stuck here for good. You can continue with the one that you have been given at the beginning of the year. And I want to tell the Council of Governors, please, don't joke with members of Parliament. They have been elected just like the way you have been elected. Your votes, we got votes the same way you got votes. Some of you, we just go through waves. You know, there are people who are saying, when the new constitution was being formulated, governors should have been appointed job. There are people who are saying that. We can amend the constitution, if need be. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, we are saying, let us respect everyone's work as enshrined in the constitution and in the laws, Mr. Speaker, and we must make sure that we are not supposed to be made like we are not supposed to bring any development to our constituency. A governor told me, Mr. Speaker, he told me on my face that, you know, your work is representation and oversight. You are just to go and make noise in Parliament. That is all. That's your work. You don't have any other work. I told him, my friend. You should have slept. My friend, when we are going to do the division of revenue bill, we will give you very little money if you talk like that. That's when you realize what power has the constitution given to the National Assembly. So, Mr. Speaker, we support the devolution, but the county, what is this thing called? The Council of Governors. This amorphous thing first. It's not in the constitution. I don't know, it's in the County Government Act or something, Mr. Speaker, which we can repeal even that one. They must respect members of Parliament henceforth. And that is not anything we are begging for. Mr. Speaker, it's an order. And we will stand firm to make sure that our constituency gets development as required by law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Your leaders have spoken. Can we end there and go to some other business? Yes. Yes. Yes, Caroli, what is it?
Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I'll add on to what Honorable Millie had said, taking the war to them. Honorable Speaker, 12 years ago when we were writing the new constitution, the original proposal was to have 14 counties plus Nairobi. There were supposed to be only 15. We ended up with 47. During this period, we've seen what is happening. Most of the counties, as a matter of fact, have nothing to show for. You go to counties, what the governors do are cultural festivals. In a year, there'll be 6-7 festivals. You don't even know which one you are at. There'll be this, there'll be that. County governments are building posho mills, others are building rice mills, things that even the central government is already divesting from. Mr. Speaker, I belong to a small group which is already doing a study whether the structure that we have for devolution is sustainable for Kenya. And the preliminary conclusion is that it is not. As a matter of fact, what would be more sustainable is to protect devolution and devolved funds, but to channel them through constituencies. And what that would mean, I'll give an example. Turkana, that gets about 11-12 billion per year with 6 constituencies, each constituency for direct development would have 2 billion a year. In Suba South, the calculation that we have done, if I was to oversee the constituency for 10 years at the current amount of devolved funds, in 10 years we'll have resolved all the road networks, built hospitals, finished all the schools. We will be talking about new things. So I think the war that we should take to them, building on what Honorable Milia said, is to relook at the constitution and the structure of devolution and take away the counties and protect the funds, but channel them as development funds directly to the constituencies. Because that is what is working in this country. All the other things are not working. And that is the war that we need to take to them as a house. And probably if this house, on a bipartisanship manner, can come up with a working group to explore this and review, using experts, exactly what we are proposing, we will help this country. Devolution in its current structure is not sustainable, will never work. It's a den of corruption. It's a den of incompetent people. You go to functions, governors have carried truckloads of people praising them. Another group has brought people fighting. I don't know. It's all chaos. It's not working for this country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Chepkonga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to join my colleagues. Honorable Speaker, I want to remind them. 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 12. The Bible says, remind them even though they know. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the Council of Governors, even though they know that Article 95 of the Constitution is very clear and it does not exist anywhere in any other article, Mr. Speaker. And it reads, for the avoidance of doubt, that the National Assembly represents the people of the constituents and special interests of the National Assembly. It says in 2, Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly deliberates on and resolves issues that are of concern to the people. Mr. Speaker, there is no other person in Kenya that has the power to resolve issues that are of concern to the people. It is only this House, Mr. Speaker. Even the courts themselves, I am being reminded by a layman here that the courts are also don't have power to resolve issues that are of concern to the people. Mr. Speaker, the other day we increased the RMLF from 18 shillings to 25. And now because we increased that money, they are now salivating. The reason we were doing so, Mr. Speaker, was to resolve issues that are of concern to the people. Mr. Speaker, in the last government, they launched about 10,000 kilometers of roads. And Mr. Speaker, there was no money to pay for those roads. And it is necessary that the RMLF was increased for purposes of paying off the outstanding bills with regard to those roads that have been constructed in those counties, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, for someone to come and say that they are holding 10 billion shillings because they are salivating for the 7 or 8 shillings that was increased is completely unfair and unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker. People just read Article 95 and they just go to sleep. Article 95 says members of parliament have 4 roles: oversight, budgeting, representation, and legislation. Mr. Speaker, we budget There is no one else under the sun in Kenya who has the role of budgeting of the resources of this country, which Kenyans pay as taxes, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the Senate or any other body cannot originate a money bill. It can only be originated from this house. That is the reason why Kara could not be passed until this house agrees. Mr. Speaker, we are not begging the Council of Governors. We want to ask them to withdraw that bill so that they can be able to get their money, which is more than the 10 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. As members have just said, I also come from a constituency. I have never seen any Council of Governors repairing roads in Ainabkoi or maintaining them, Mr. Speaker. In fact, most of the time we are asked, please assist us, we know this is not your road. And we go and plead with the Director General of Kera, please, could you assist these people of Ainabkoi who have a problem with this road? And you know, Mr. Speaker, it is not a Kera road, it is a county road, Mr. Speaker. And we can give so many of them, there are plethora of roads that have been repaired by Kera that has nothing to do with what has been apportioned to them. And so, Mr. Speaker, we must stand very firm. In fact, we have now learned something, Mr. Speaker, that we can use the Sakaja route to stop some people from doing some funny things. No, I'm not saying it's a Sakaja route. No. The Sakaja route, Mr. Speaker, is
that is criminal conduct.
It is a criminal conduct. But we are saying
that is criminal conduct.
But we are saying, Mr. Speaker, we have just learned bad habits recently.
There is no justification for that.
I agree with you, Mr. Speaker. Yes. There's no justification at all. Yes. For people to pour cabbage on people's gates. Yes. No, NEMA must in fact take action. That's what the majority leader is saying. Mr. Speaker, we are saying...
Are you saying, Jebkonga, if KPLC demands power payment from you, you go and cut down their polls?
No, Mr. Speaker, that's what I'm saying. It is absolutely criminal. It's a criminal enterprise. They are involved in some criminality, Mr. Speaker. Yes. And it is that we don't have any...
No country will condone that kind of criminal behavior.
Yeah, but we would like to ask the Senate to call to order Senator Sakaja for dumping waste on KPLC, Mr. Speaker. That is conduct unbecoming. And the reason why people see us this way, Mr. Speaker, is because we are gentlemen and gentlewomen, and we like to follow the law. But we should not be taken like we have no teeth, Mr. Speaker. We can fight.
There are no gentlewomen, they are ladies.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Speaker. They are gentle ladies. No, it's just that one of them was being told she was not properly dressed yesterday.
Okay, finish up.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Honourable members, I'll close with Otienda Amolo, then Kainan, then GK. Only those, then we go to the next.
Thank you.
And
thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Exercise some brevity.
Mr. Speaker, first is information to the members. As the members are aware, we are in court on the NGCDF matter.
Yes.
And it's currently before the Court of Appeal. And just next week, on 6th of March, we are appearing for directions. As we had indicated to the members, the court, we are fast-tracking the hearing. But that notwithstanding, it does not give anyone any authority to reduce anything. But the beauty with it, ultimately, members, is that we are with the ones with the power. The executive can only make proposals. So it is within us to change what we need to change. And I agree with the ruling with the Speaker earlier that we must proceed as a matter of necessity. Secondly, on the RMLF matter, it is very interesting, Mr. Speaker, that the very people who are with us in court, who challenge the NGCDF matter every day, who litigate up to the Supreme Court and come back and restart again, have never found it necessary to challenge any of the exercise of authority by the counties, including the bursaries. Strictly speaking, the county governors are supposed to deal with ECD and TVCs. Now, TVCs, you end up with students coming to the members of parliament to support them, even the institutions themselves. One would have thought that the governors would actually concentrate on the areas of their jurisdiction before they spill over. But many of us have usually not complained because in most of our constituencies, students are needy. So that even with all that, you still find other students who don't get it. But when then the same governors want to encroach into our area, then it calls for us to demonstrate
that our power is not just latent, it is potent. And in that respect, Mr. Speaker, I think that as we go along, and we don't have to wait for your direction on this, we as members will be taking on these governors on many of these things, in court and outside court, in matters we filed and those ones filed by others, so that we can get what we call an equilibrium of power. So that people understand that actually this is where the power lies. It does not lie in courts, it does not lie in the executive, it lies here. Courts can interpret the law anytime, and they can interpret our actions anytime, but ultimately, they cannot stop us from making legislation however we want. Courts cannot stop us from exercising our powers in terms of the budget however we want. Let's send a caution to the governors that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Thank you.
They won't understand that English.
Thank you, Honorable Otienda Amolo, for order. Thank you, Otienda Amolo, for final agreeing with the Speaker that power lies here and not elsewhere. Kainan?
Mr. Speaker, allow me to join this debate. Mr. Speaker, this debate has two aspects, and I'm glad that today the leader of majority and the leader of minority have agreed on one thing, that this house has been reduced to a house of lamentations, Mr. Speaker. This August House, Mr. Speaker, once upon a time was an appendage of the executive. We freed ourselves, and you know it, how it used to be. But suddenly again, we are going back to the same, Mr. Speaker. I'm told the chairman of transport is here, Mr. Speaker. When an MD of a national government agency, without any due regard, without any consultation, just by a circular, negates everything that this house has passed, Mr. Speaker, then what is the implication? The implication is we are no longer the August House that we used to be. When the MD of Kera sits down, and yet we have an oversight committee called the Transport Committee. When the MD for Kura sits down, and yet we have a committee here, and negates what we have passed, Mr. Speaker, that has gone through all the stages, the only inference that you can make is this is no longer the August House. I agree with what the leader of majority has said. With the leader of majority and the leader of minority. Look, under the current constitution, and for those of us who have been part of this, we had certain considerations. Mr. Speaker, you know how we included devolution in the current constitution. You know how we captured equalization in the current constitution. CDF, all those now are floating in the air. The governors have gone to court to make sure equalization doesn't work. It's no longer functioning. The governors have gone to court to make sure NCDF is not working. The governors have gone to court to make sure RLNF is not working. The next thing they are saying is members of parliament have no role in the governance of the Republic of Kenya. Is that where you want to be? Is that where you want to be? That is where we are. To the extent that some of them are going public to say members of parliament have no role in the county affairs. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge this. I want to urge colleagues. There comes a time when people must be ready to make hard decisions. We need to do both summative and formative evaluation of all the resources we have devolved since the promulgation of the current constitution, so that we allow Kenyans to see the value of the billions and the trillions we have devolved, Mr. Speaker, as the true representative of the people, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, we'll sit here, lament, go to court. I'm glad what the Honorable Otienda Amolo has said. But that's the court. What are we doing in the house here? The budget making process is in our hands, Mr. Speaker. We are not using. The oversight process is in our hands, we are not using. The legislative power is in our hands, we are not using, Mr. Speaker. Then what are we saying? Mr. Speaker, this group, Mr. Speaker, comprising of the Council of Governors, slowly they have taken over. One time, they blackmail the members of parliament. The other time, they blackmail the senators. They blackmail the executive. Everybody's been blackmailed. Under our watch, what are we going to do? This is what I want to suggest. We need to critically dissect the current constitution and address all the areas, the gray areas, Mr. Speaker, that ought to have added value to the well-being of the people we represent. If we do both summative and formative evaluation, Mr. Speaker, you'll realize the billions that have gone. I had the privilege of representing 2 constituencies, Mr. Speaker, and I am ready to take all of you for a benchmarking visit to Wajir West and Eldas and see what the national government has done over the last 10 years and what the county government has done over the last 10 years, and you'll be in a position to compare and appreciate that our constituents still survive on budgetary supports from the national government.
Thank you.
Yet billions are devolved. My conclusion is this. Chairman Transport, if you are here, we cannot be under the threat of a Mayor MD of Kera. He has issued circulars, many circulars. In fact, Mr. Speaker, some of these MDs, because we have failed to bite, we have failed to act. I went to, yesterday in the House Business Committee, and I want my colleagues, the leader of majority and the leader of minority, to hear this. This is the first time, and I want all the members to hear this, in the history of NCDF, from July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, our proposals are yet to be approved. What are these other funds you are looking? Where are your CDF proposals? You are being duped to ask to facilitate the bursary allocations. Where is the money?
Thank you.
Even the basic is not there. So chairman, former chairman of NCDF, I've been running after the CEO and the management of NCDF board. Where are the approvals? Where are the approvals for the fund managers to actualize? The approvals have not been done. What are we saying? Whose mistake is it? It's our mistake. That approval ought to have been in place by December so that we roll out the project.
Yes.
So we are all sitting. Let's stop complaining. Let's not reduce ourselves to a house of lamentation. Can we act and bite constitutionally? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
GK.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this debate. Honorable Speaker, I want to remind members that the Act, the KRB Act, has not been amended or neither has it been suspended. We have an act that stipulates how RMLF funds should be shared. And as long as that act stands, we will not allow anybody to take away any coin, any cent from our allocation, 22 and 10%. The committee that I lead, Honorable Speaker, has taken a position on this matter. We met the Cabinet Secretary yesterday and raised this issue, and he has assured the committee that he will support the position that exists. And this position is in the law, KRB Act. Honorable Speaker, I want to assure members that we will not cede any ground as far as these resources are concerned. We know what happens out there when governors are allowed to implement these resources. We do not see, we are not able to see anything that they do for our people. And Honorable Speaker, this money was set aside to avail to the people of Kenya what we call the common good. Honorable Speaker, we will stand with the people of Kenya and continue to serve them effectively by holding on to these resources.
Yes, Nabi, what is it?
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the chairman of the Roads Committee to mislead the House that he is doing anything when we need to know he is the problem?
Chairman.
I think, Honorable Speaker, I do not have to respond to that comment because it's he's totally out of order. I have been very consistent in my support for RMLF resources being appropriated through the constituency roads committees. And that is a position we have taken as a committee. Honorable Speaker, I want to once again assure members that we will continue engaging the ministry, the KRB, KERA, to ensure that nothing changes, the status quo remains. And the case that is in court, Honorable Speaker, I'll urge the executive to engage the governors and make sure and ensure that the 10 billion that is held by the courts is released for the purpose of serving our people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Andrew Nolwach, Nairobi colleagues of yours have asked me to give you an opportunity to say something.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This morning, the 17 members of Parliament met with their regional engineers, and the very same question being discussed in this House was what we are discussing. Honorable Speaker, first, let me confirm that all the tendering for the RLMF Kera roads for Nairobi had been done. Letters expressing intention to award had been issued. And the unique problem that Nairobi constituency has, that unlike our other constituencies, the other 200 and so constituencies, is that we have to do tarmac roads or bitumen roads. Some of those roads are done in a layered form. Some of those roads are done in a sequential manner. So that when we tell the people of Nairobi that you cannot do 5 roads which you are tendered, you can only do 2 roads, on which roads are you going to select? These are the roads that I'm going to do, and which ones? There is a legitimate expectation, and especially when this member of Parliament before this very same House raised this question as to why the ceilings were being brought down from 61 or 62 million to have that amount. That same afternoon, before I had even sat down, that circular had been withdrawn, Honorable Speaker. And so the House went and relaxed that this problem had been sorted, and advert put on the basis of 62 million. How again are we told post the fact, when the tendering has been done and awards already issued, that we can only do 2 roads? Honorable Speaker, I want to summarize by saying this. I am tempted to think that this House does not have the teeth that it claims to be. And I heard Honorable Kipchunga very well. This House must either prove that it is the senior House that it claims to be, because it cannot be that the executive can go and exact upon, the governors, exact upon the executive on the potential or prospective merger of Kera and Kura, whose intention is still the very same, withdrawal of the money that goes to your constituencies. If you haven't seen that, our leadership, and I'm speaking here so that Honorable Ichungwa can hear, when you sit with the executive, what is it that you tell them in terms of the ability to leverage your legislative power to the executive to bear? I think we are a House that is so much ado about nothing, including myself. We either show that we can do this or we go the Karoli way. In the interim, Honorable Speaker, let us summon the CS of roads here even tomorrow and discuss these things, because the members of Parliament for Nairobi constituency, this is where all of you, the 290 of you, come here in between Tuesday and Thursday. Then you run to your constituencies. These roads are not maintained or done by the governors. I can confirm there is not a single tarmac road in Mathare constituency that has been done by the governors. So we must deal with this issue, and I suggest that we summon the CS tomorrow and suspend all our activities and address this issue. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to, Mr. Speaker, to bring to the attention of the House matter of concern to the public, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are a country that is governed by the rule of law. And the last 2 days, Mr. Speaker, there was an episode in Nairobi County, Mr. Speaker, where people who could not pay their bills, electricity bills, Mr. Speaker, went ahead and dumped, I think, 1 truck or 2 trucks full of garbage, Mr. Speaker, in front of the premises of Kenya Power and Lighting Company, Mr. Speaker.
Garbage and swill.
Garbage
and swill.
And swill.
You know swill?
I know, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, go on.
Is it sewage? Is it sewage? Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I want to bring to the attention of the House, Mr. Speaker, that is not the way to do things. Mr. Speaker, because Kenya Power and Lighting Company, Mr. Speaker, is a very, very important institution in our country. And is a public listed company. And is a company that is oversighted also by this House. Mr. Speaker, many people have defaulted in paying their bills. It's not only Nairobi County Assembly, Nairobi County government. But Mr. Speaker, if you cannot afford to pay your bills, you negotiate with the person you owe money. You don't use other means to intimidate them and to make them, you know, to make them let you go with their money. Mr. Speaker, I stand here to condemn that matter, Mr. Speaker, because it is uncouth and primitive, and it is an irresponsible way of dealing with an issue. Mr. Speaker, Nairobi City County of late has been doing a good job. They have been trying to clean the city, to remove, kiosks on the roadside that have encroached on the public pavements, Mr. Speaker. But this act they did yesterday, Majority Leader, is unacceptable. How can you, at this time, intimidate a government institution? Even though some of the major shareholders might be private, even some of them are members of this House, I know, of Kenya Power, and I'm told they're getting very good dividends this financial year because Kenya Power is doing very well. I don't know, he's not around now, but he's a serious investor in that place, Mr. Speaker. But that's very good. Even as we aspire to be that. Somebody who's younger than me, that I don't know how we achieve that. I'm really worried, Mr. Speaker. I need to pull up my socks and do something, Mr. Speaker. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, and that could be one of the reasons why we want to have change in the budget committee, maybe. Who knows? But I leave it there for people to decide. It's not in my place to judge anyone, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, the issue that I want to bring to the attention of the House is that the Nairobi County government must apologize and must desist from that kind of act going forward. The governor must apologize to the institution called Kenya Power and Lighting Company and residents of Nairobi in general. Because, Mr. Speaker, we cannot do that. Tomorrow, they will have a problem with NEMA. They will have a problem with any other institution. Is that the way you are going to solve your disputes? So, Mr. Speaker...
What will stop them from dumping garbage and swill outside your gate?
What will stop them? The Speaker is asking me from dumping garbage in front of my house. Mr. Speaker, that's a good question. Because if I don't pay for their services also, if I don't pay their water bills on time, or I don't pay maybe their service charge on time, they can dump garbage also in front of my house. Mr. Speaker, then they tell me, until you pay your dues, we are not going to remove any garbage from in front of your house. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a new phenomena that is, we have never seen it before. So, Mr. Speaker, the governor was elected by Kenyans through the UDA party. Even though we have some symbiotic relationship with ODM, which we are not yet confirming it, because we don't know how I think there is some relationship that is not known, that we need to understand where it is heading to. But Mr. Speaker, in spite of all that, with our symbiotic relationship with the governor, we have to condemn things when they are done wrongly. And that was a wrong act on the part of the Nairobi County government, Mr. Speaker. And we are not doing this we are warning people who might attempt to do that kind of nonsense, Mr. Speaker, because it might not end with them. There are other institutions also who can do that. There are others who can lock up your house, for not paying your dues or something. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to say that act must be condemned and it must not be repeated again, Mr. Speaker. And if it is done, this House now will exercise its mandate of oversight. Mr. Speaker, nothing constitutionally stops us from summoning governors. Yes. Nothing. There is no in the Constitution that governors can only be summoned by the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution says Parliament can summon anyone. Parliament. Yes. And when you say Parliament, it is both the Senate and the National Assembly. Yes. That is Parliament. Parliament can summon anybody in Kenya. Parliament. So under that provision of the Constitution, we will summon governors if they go wayward. They must stick to the rule of law. And they must respect the laws that we have put in place as a House to govern this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ichungwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me also join the Honorable Junet Mohammed, Minority Leader. First, in condemning that act by the county government of Nairobi. And two, to ask both the county government of Nairobi and the Kenya Power and Lighting Company to get into a negotiation or some sort of dialogue to be able to resolve the issues that are before them on issues touching on pending bills, Honorable Speaker. What we have seen around Stima Plaza, Honorable Speaker, is these are criminal acts. And indeed, I was asking myself last night as I watched on TV, where are the police that should be ensuring there is law and order everywhere in the country? The Inspector General of Police must take decisive action, and it must begin with the drivers who drove those trucks there. Because, Honorable Speaker, it should be very easy for the Inspector General of Police through DCI to extract information as to who were the drivers who dumped there. From the drivers to the people who instructed them. Whether it goes all the way up to the governor, it should not matter. Because we should not entertain criminality in the guise of attempting to collect your debts from public institutions, Honorable Speaker. What would happen today, Honorable Speaker? Our constituents, some of them are waiting for bursaries, others are waiting for grade 9 classrooms to be built through NGCDF, and members of parliament are here asking for NGCDF money. What if we decided that everybody now will take the law into their hands and do whatever you want, Honorable Speaker? Are we going to have a country? The City Council of Nairobi owes businessmen and women in this country money in pending bills to the tunes of hundreds of billions. What if the people who are owed by the City County of Nairobi also tomorrow decided to go and dump their garbage outside City Hall? How would the governor of Nairobi take that? Number two, Honorable Speaker, under the integrity, it's called the EACC Act, Ethics and Integrity Act. These are not just criminal acts, but acts that go against the Integrity and Ethics Act.
Acts under the NEMA Act.
Yes, criminal acts under the NEMA Act, criminal acts under the Ethics and Integrity Act, and also criminal acts touching on economic crimes, because you are dumping garbage deliberately on a road and sewer. You will expend public resources to dump and to later clean up. It is abuse of public funds.
Yes.
And therefore, Honorable Speaker, if we allow this kind of behavior to go on unchecked, these are the same governors, Honorable Speaker, who some time back were asking that they also be given some security officers under their command. You can imagine if these governors had policemen under their command, they would trample on everyone, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, mine is to ask the Inspector General of Police and ask him to make sure that action is taken against those people who dumped outside Stima Plaza. I also want to encourage the business people who I have seen crying on national TV, that they have restaurants they have closed down because nobody can patronize their restaurants. They must take civil action against the City County of Government of Nairobi for compensation for lost business, Honorable Speaker. Because you are closing down people's businesses. I saw the Stima Plaza. I also didn't know it's not even owned by KPLC. KPLC are tenants of Stima Plaza. It is owned by pensioners. Our mothers and fathers who worked in KPLC and Kengen, as it were before, are the owners of that building. It is their business as landlords that is being spoiled by the county government of Nairobi. And Honorable Speaker, I do hope And in fact, Honorable Speaker, I was wishing that you could even direct the Inspector General of Police, and because the chair of the Security Committee is here, you should direct the chair of the Security Committee to summon the Inspector General of Police and explain to the committee and to this House how can they be watching when criminality takes root unchecked and nobody is doing anything about it. All that people can be left to is crying on TV how their businesses have been locked down. KPLC employees are being paid a salary but they can't go to work. Honorable Speaker, I would beg that you direct the Security Committee of this House to pick up that matter together with the Energy Committee, with the Inspector General of Police and the ministry concerned to make sure that there is an amicable solution to this problem. But more importantly for the Inspector General of Police to ensure that criminal charges are leveled against those who dumped outside Stimba Plaza. That is a behavior that we cannot condone. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Tongoyo, we shall not allow this country to be reduced to a Wild West behavior, whereas you disagree with somebody and you send goons and hooligans to go and sort out your mess. That is not Kenya. And you must stop it. So I direct you to summon the IG to find out why no action has been taken against this publicized criminal behavior by the city government of Nairobi. Yes, Dr. Nyikal. Hold on, Tongoyo.
Mr. Speaker, it's not only the police that we should ask. What was actually done is a public nuisance, and actually under the Public Health Act, the driver and their bosses who allowed that to open can be charged because they actually exposed people to garbage and soil, as you said, and that can easily cause an epidemic. We actually had a problem like that where some person actually were dumping things in the river, and eventually we had cholera in River Suo in Western Kenya. So it is not just a police issue, it is a major health issue, not only for the staff of Kenya Power and Lighting, but for all the people around. So I think that element should also be looked into. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Chief Whip, on the same issue?
Honorable Speaker, it is in line with what Dr. Nyikal has just said. This is actually what we've been saying, that we have created demigods in the name of governors, in the name of their excellence, Honorable Speaker. The cries of the business people around Stimba Plaza, Honorable Speaker, should not be left just like that. I saw on TV, Honorable Speaker, a lady who runs a restaurant just next to Stimba Plaza, who had no interest whatsoever to whatever happens between the county government and the Kenya Power and other business people around that area, Honorable Speaker, having it rough to even run their business, Honorable Speaker. There is even one cow, Honorable Speaker, that was towed by the county government, Honorable Speaker, that did not belong to the people, to any employee that works in the Stimba Plaza, Honorable Speaker. That is exactly what we are talking about in relation to everything that we've talked about as far as the county governments and the governors are concerned, Honorable Speaker. So I also join the majority leader and all the leaders that have spoken in saying that it's about time that we also invite those governors, perhaps in this house, or find a way to have these committees, Honorable Speaker, to investigate some of those actions. I know it's not within our mandate. We'll be acting ultra-violent.
It is within your mandate.
It is within our mandate.
Read the Constitution.
So that this committee, I'm well guided, Honorable Speaker. Article 95, I presume. And then have these relevant committees, not just the Security Committee, Honorable Speaker, even the committee that handles matters environment, Honorable Speaker, the committee that handles trade matters, because the business people are affected around that area. The governor and his team must face this house and explain what exactly they were trying to do and this childishness that we see. Because, Honorable Speaker, we see a lot of them, not just garbage. You see governors, Honorable Speaker, moving around with vehicles, about 30 vehicles. One vehicle carrying a carpet, another one carrying a toilet, another one carrying goons, another one carrying a chair, another one stand. Honorable Speaker, even a chair cover in barriers, and disrupting things, people's places, disrupting people all over, Honorable Speaker. You even saw in a funeral in Kakamega, Honorable Speaker, where there is war between a governor, a senator, and then a member of parliament, Honorable Speaker, because we've created demigods, Honorable Speaker. We also call upon the police to impound these trucks. The order by the governor to just release them, Honorable Speaker, that is playing PR. That is playing to the public gallery, playing politics, and playing clean. It shouldn't be that way. The vehicles that were parked outside, the vehicles that left the garbage in that particular place, Honorable Speaker, and the vehicles that blocked the way for 3 days should be impounded and the drivers arrested and charged, Honorable Speaker, for criminal offenses. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Tongoyo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm well guided. We are going to have the IG summon and appear before the committee next week on Thursday.
There are criminal offenses committed just under the nuisance law.
Yes.
Under environmental law, under the Health Act, under the Penal Code, and several other acts of parliament. You can find up to 10 criminal acts committed with that act.
So actually, Honorable Speaker, I'm actually can't agree anymore. What is actually surprises all of us here is that it should not have even reached this far without the IG taking action. And the question should be, Honorable Speaker, it should not have waited to this far. But having said that, and as you directed, Honorable Speaker, we are going to do exactly that. And I think it's an issue that should be severely punished because, Honorable Speaker, it begs a question. If this can do to an institution like KPLC, what should happen to his own political competitors? It will be actually wake every other morning, Zero has been actually and dumb on your doorstep. So, Honorable Speaker, I join the rest of us to condemn that act, and we are going to do exactly as you directed. And possibly, Honorable Speaker, I think Honorable Dr. Nyikal put it, possibly, I think it also goes beyond the mandate only of security. Even NEMA should be they probably pulled into this.
Honorable Millie, you remember, and you members of parliament must take this thing seriously. When we were going for a public rally in Jacaranda grounds, you remember Governor Songo then went and emptied raw sewage on the entire field and got away with it. This house must exercise its authority. Yes, Ocheng, what is it?
Mr. Speaker, you know, we allow governors and county governments to get away with too much. If there was a single time a governor should be impeached for gross misconduct, it is now. If the Senate was serious about their job, this is the time they should impeach a governor, not for corruption, not for stealing, but for gross misconduct on the face of it. There is no reason why the governor of Nairobi should continue being in office when his officers are telling us that they did what is said to have been done. The minister, the CEC for finance was on TV yesterday saying they did this knowingly. Why should the governor be still in the office, Mr. Speaker? Number two, Mr. Speaker, on this matter, and Dogo has spoken, the idea that National Assembly cannot summon governors is illegal. We have always known this. I think this assembly must start summoning governors where they go afoul of the law. We allowed senators to be summoning ministers. We know it's wrong, but we allowed them to do so. I believe, Mr. Speaker, that you must give direction that committee chairs, committees concerned should henceforth start summoning governors where they go against the law. We should not shy from summoning them because of anything. There's nothing against the law when you summon governors to come here. And after, I think the day Donde Botongo summons the IG, he must summon the governor also to come before that committee, so that these matters are handled in a manner that shows that this house has teeth and it will bite when it matters most.
Mr. Speaker, my issue is very related with the one we are discussing. These governors are becoming demigods. One, in Migori, you know there is a company called Sony Sugar. The governor of Migori has just decided to impound tractors carrying sugarcane to to the factory because of some pending bills. Around 12 tractors now are in somewhere with the sugar cane in them. It shows that if we don't control these governors, they'll do anything they want and go away with it. So, Mr. Speaker, that was the burning issue that even back in Migori, the Shoni Sugar are really suffering because the governor want money from them, the cess money, which is in the pending bill, but if you don't pay, the tractors carrying sugar cane are being arrested. Do I call them arrested or compounded? And the sugar canes are drying in those tractors simply because the Shoni Sugar has not paid the levy for the county government of Migori.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, yes, Chepkonga.
Mr. Speaker, you know, you have allowed Honorable Tongoyo to call the Inspector of Police on Thursday. This is an extremely very important matter.
I have not allowed him, I've directed him.
No, he needs to be directed to call the Inspector on Monday. This is a very urgent matter. We cannot allow a criminal matter to wait until next week.
Did he say next week?
He said Thursday. You should direct that they should call the Inspector by Monday.
You are right. Yes, KJ, what is it?
Before the senior counsel leaves the floor, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to find out if it is in order for a member to direct the Speaker. We know the discretion of the Speaker is stipulated in our first standing order, Mr. Speaker. And while he has a very important point to raise, and we all have an issue to raise, even with the governor of Nairobi City County, for the activities and the actions that he undertook, which are an embarrassment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the lines of Kenya Power, we are carrying cables for the last mile connectivity. And our sector, the ICT and digital economy, is depending on Kenya Power to transmit this last line connectivity of fiber to the homes of Kenyans. It is one of the biggest pillars of the Kenya Kwanza government in the Kenya Digital Master Plan. So when you go and upset a fellow agency, which is a government agency, it is a gross action by a leader, Mr. Speaker. And so if it is for the IG to appear here, I do not think it is in the place. It is in the place of Honorable Chepkonga to guide you. I know, Mr. Speaker, under discretionary standing order number 1, you are wise enough to make a Solomonic decision on this issue. However, what was done by Governor Sakaja is gross misconduct, goes against the tenets of the Constitution, even on matters to do with leadership, Mr. Speaker. And I thank you for this opportunity. I just needed to know if Honorable Chepkonga is in order to direct the chair.
Tongoyo, you will summon the IG on Monday. Right? Honorable members, let's end there. On that, I don't know if this school is still in the public gallery. St. Jacinta Secondary School from Marakwet West, Elgeyo Marakwet. Even if they have left, for the record, we welcome them to the House of Parliament. And they have left? Okay. Next order. As they call the next order, clerk hold. I've been requested by Honorable Murugara to stay order number 14 to next week. So I order that order number 14, when it's reached, will be stayed to next week. Call the next order, order number 11.
Order number 11, the Gold Processing Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2023, second reading, resumption of debate.
Fatma Zainab of Migori, she's not here. She forfeits the opportunity. She had 4 minutes to go. Martin Owino, are you here for the gold? Go ahead. Yes, Nabi, for the bill. I've given the floor to Martin Owino. You will speak thereafter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill. As it stands now, Mr. Speaker, the mining of gold in every part of the country is in a mess. But people are desperate and they are looking for how they can survive. They go into caves, these caves collapses, and many people are killed Some are maimed and disabled because they are looking for gold. So when I look at this bill, I think it's going to bring order to the mining industry. Mr. Speaker, the bill seeks to establish the institutional and legal framework where these people who are struggling to mine gold can be put in order in terms of mining itself, collecting the gold, purification, smeltering, fabrication, and registration of the whole business. This is lacking right now. Like even in my constituency, there are small pockets of areas which are thought to have gold. And because of the desperation, people go into these areas and start mining. And sometimes, actually many times, you find this, when it rains, the holes collapses and people die. So I think in my submission, I want to thank the committee of all the observations and all the recommendations they have done to this bill, and the establishment of that regulatory framework that will put everything in order. Another time, so you find these people, when they have got the little cash they have from the mining, they also get blackmailed by people in between. In fact, if we don't come to the rescue, I hope this will be fast-tracked so that our people are not exploited as they struggle to mine the bill. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to say this is a good bill, and I urge other members to support it. It will bring order and soundness to the industry, and I think out of that, the whole country will also gain in that order of business. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the bill. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, parts of Kakamega have quite a bit of gold deposits. But Mr. Speaker, we've lost quite a number of productive people because the business has been done crudely, haphazardly, and by exploitative forces. In actual sense, Mr. Speaker, the community, the county government, and the country has lost not only people, but revenues. Mr. Speaker, some of the people have engaged our local people into mining as basically smugglers. And this bill would not have come at a better time other than this. And therefore I want to thank Honorable Shinali and the members of the committee for processing this bill to this House. Mr. Speaker, when we have mining of gold, and we know in this country, western part of Kenya, which has been discriminated in other development, I see this as a God-sent opportunity that no one can take away from us. That if we can realign, we can smoothen, we can have a legal framework to mine gold, then we are going to improve the lives of our people. We are going to improve the per capita income of the people in Lurambi in Kakamega, the people in Ikolomani in Kakamega, the people in Bondo and other parts of Siaya, the people in Migori and some parts of Homa Bay. This therefore provides a platform even for the ministry and the Department of Mining and Geology to go further and find other areas in Western Kenya that have deposits of gold. Mr. Speaker, I was really concerned 2 weeks ago in Shinyalu, where we lost 2 people and 18 others were injured because they were mining gold crudely. Mr. Speaker, I also want to bring to your notice an individual I know who has made billions of money from the mines in Economani, but unfortunately for us, Mr. Speaker, the people who mine are paid meager earnings and the government does not earn any revenue. For this reason, Mr. Speaker, I support the bill.
Honorable Dick Maungu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity given that I may also add my voice on this important bill. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I wish to really applaud my good brother, Honorable Ben Shinali, and the committee for having come up with such a progressive bill. Gold is an important resource. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is one of those few countries that God has blessed with this rare resource. And therefore, a law that comes in to kind of put order and protect the small miners is highly welcome, Mr. Speaker. My good friend, Brother Nabi, forgot to mention that apart from Kakamega, Vihiga, Luanda is one of those areas that have been identified as potentially full of gold deposits, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this bill will not only go to protect other counties, Mr. Speaker, but my people in Luanda, a place known as Mwibona Ward, in Maloba in South, and other areas, Mr. Speaker, we have these gold deposits. But for a long time, Mr. Speaker, our young men have been abused and misused by the so-called cartels who've taken advantage of these young people for lack of legislation and some framework within which they can do their processing, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this bill moves in to bring order and sanity, Mr. Speaker, as we shall give protection to these people who actually do mining at that low level, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as late as last Saturday, we buried one of our great men who died in the process of gold mining. And we have lost very many young men and men, Mr. Speaker, who every other day move into these mines trying to secure an economic venture out of the mines, Mr. Speaker. In the process, the mines collapse. Sometimes they are covered within, Mr. Speaker, never to be seen again. And this leaves young widows, leaves young children without parents, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, having this bill that will ensure the environment within which gold is mined is safe, Mr. Speaker, will go a long way in ensuring there's integrity, a long way, Mr. Speaker, in ensuring that the artisanal miners, Mr. Speaker, are equally enabled on how they can be trained, they can be facilitated, Mr. Speaker, so that brokers and cartels don't take over the industry. Therefore, I raise support and say thank you to my good brother Shinali for a well-thought bill at a point in time. Thank you.
Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to talk about this particular bill. I think said by your brother from the area, and I'm also from the neighborhood of the gold mine in Kakamega. And I think quite a number of things, Mr. Speaker, should be done, and be done very urgently. First and foremost, I think I was reading a paper some times back, and I was told, it's about 2-3 weeks ago, that Africa is still very good at natural resources. And they have yet to be exploited, they have yet to be, we don't even have any structure in doing the mining of some of these natural resources in Kenya. And this particular area, the gold mine, and I think those years when I was very young, and it was even in school, that actually it was the best in Africa. The only thing is that there's very poor infrastructure. Chair, and I think I've had some committees that actually are involved. And Mr. Speaker, the area is just, anybody can walk in, even you and I can walk in there and say, okay, we want to do it, so long as you give some tips to the people who are around there. And those people can now go in there and do the mining. So there's very poor infrastructure. I want to take this, that the administrative unit of this country, with the leadership of the area, including my brother who has actually proposed this bill, should be able to sit down with the gold mining interests, those who have come from outside the country. I understand there are even Japanese there, Chinese there, to sit down and be able to organize the way this particular mining can be done. And I can tell you, it's just not going to offer jobs to our people. It's also going to earn us a lot of foreign exchange, because gold is one of the very precious metal in the world. And even you can see even this speaker here, this, you look at it, is all but gold, very precious. And therefore, I think the best thing to do, and I want to ask my brother, should I need to be able, because we are depending on you as a leader in the area, do you organize yourselves and be able to have the administrative unit to be able to organize the whole place? Because it's very, very unfortunate. There are people who actually are looking for jobs and there are no jobs. And that's why the boys and girls that rushed there died, because all they are looking for is an income. And therefore, I think my suggestion is that we sit down and be able to organize ourselves so that apart from that particular mining, the other exploration, that's why the Europeans actually, you and I have read history, rushed to Africa, because Africa had all the natural resources. And I can tell you, even where we are now in Africa, in Nairobi, maybe there are gold mines, we can always get gold here, but we have to organize ourselves. And I think the biggest problem today is that we pass this bill, Mr. Speaker, just get organized so they can be able to see what we can do on this particular bill and be able to assist the locals, because they are looking for income. And you can't blame them. So I want to say that much as we are mourning those young men who died, I can't blame them. They were rushing there because of the source of income. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to say we get ourselves organized. I think the Ministry of Mining, it should be taken there and be in charge of organizing the whole mining structure so that we don't have a repeat of this, for the benefit of this country and for the benefit of the people from Kakamega and the benefit of the people who actually are surrounded that place, including you and I. And therefore, I support this and ask the Member of Parliament to take leadership like you have done now, not because you saw people dying, but for the future of this country, so that you're on record to be able to assist our people and the ministry so can do proper mining of the area. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this. Thank you.
The Honorable Samuel Atandi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make my submissions on this bill. Honorable Speaker, I rise to say that the Gold Processing Bill 2023 has come to this floor of the House at the right time, and the bill is timely because of the issues the bill is seeking to correct. Honorable Speaker, when you hear about gold, you basically think gold basically is about money and wealth. But Honorable Speaker, when you go down to listen to the people involved in the mining of gold in the villages, Honorable Speaker, you would be surprised the kind of the nature of the workers that are working in those environments. Honorable Speaker, gold miners are some of the poorest workers in this country. And